All right, and the inevitable question that's always asked, can you see my screen? Awesome. Let's see here. Oops. All right, do you see the notes page by any chance? You do? Okay. This is something I was trying to. There we go. All right, so you figure after a year and a half of webinars, I'd figure it out finally, but here we are. So I appreciate everybody joining us here. We are live streaming and we are recording. My name is Dave Celebrezze. I'm the GreenSpot coordinator for the City of Columbus. And today we have an awesome topic, and that is conserving water at home, taking the plunge. So before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about GreenSpot. The GreenSpot Conversations series was a product of our GreenSpot Advisory Board. They've put together a number of these. So we have done, I think, about 9 or 10 at this point. We have another couple to do. So check those out on our Facebook page. So we're planning more. If you're not familiar with GreenSpot, you can join us by going to columbusgreenspot.org. And with that, when we think about sustainability here at the City of Columbus, we think of it in 3 ways. We think about equity, we think about economy, and we think about environment. And when you have those 3 things all moving in the same direction, that's when you really have sustainability. And really, that's when we thrive as a community, and that's what we aim for. GreenSpot sits over Public Utilities, and we're part of the Sustainable Columbus, which is the larger city initiative, which looks at going carbon neutral by 2050, looks at getting our energy from 100% renewable community aggregation by 2022, and improving our neighborhoods and green space, clean air and clean water. I won't read all these numbers because I'll probably lose people here if I do that, but you can see the numbers on the screen of how many household members we have, neighborhoods, etc. We really do inspire, educate, and recognize those folks that take steps to live a little bit more sustainably. Here's some of our savings in our GreenSpot universe of what is reported to us. So GreenSpot, you can track your progress and you make commitments. So you can kind of see the numbers there. Those are actually probably very conservative numbers because not all of our 21,000 members report on a regular basis. All right, so taking the plunge, let's dive right in, shall we? We have an excellent speaker here today. So I want to introduce him, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Columbus Water and then WaterSense. So Cary McElhinney, he is with the US EPA. He serves as the WaterSense coordinator in Water Division at US EPA's Region 5 office, which is out of Chicago. For the past 15 years, he's led the program implementation and information management activities under both Safe Drinking Water Act and Clean Water Act priorities. Previously, Cary was at US EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C., where he was a project manager for Office of Water Information Reporting Systems. Cary received his Bachelor's of Science from the University of Dayton. There's always a connection to Ohio. No matter where you are in the country, there's always a connection to Ohio. And his Master's of Science from the North Carolina State University, which I believe are the Wolfpack. So welcome, Cary. And Cary's going to talk about WaterSense here in a few minutes. I do have some quiz questions for our viewers that I want to get into first. And actually, I'm going to pull up here. We are live streaming on Facebook, so I want to make sure our live streaming folks get a chance to answer these questions as well. And you can either write it in the chat or just think about it. How much water did the 3 water plants operated by Columbus Public Utilities treat to make our water safe to drink in 2020? Is it 100 million, 41 billion, or 51 billion? So if you guessed 51.5 billion gallons of water, you are correct. We will mail you an invisible gold star for your correct answer. So the next question we have is, what is the estimated service population Department of Public Utilities water serves? So that map there, you can kind of see where our water plants are. On the left is the Dublin Road water plant. On the south side, it's Parson Avenue water plant. And then we have the Hapcomine water plant in the top right there. So how many people does our water serve? 1.2 million people. So there's a lot of water, there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of opportunity to conserve and protect our water. And we'll get to that here in a second. one other question: how many gallons of wastewater did the city treat in 2020? And you probably get the idea here, 70 billion gallons. So even though we live in a water-rich area, we do need to be responsible with this resource that we have here. If you look out west and the water shortages out there, we don't have those here. So, but that doesn't mean we need to rest on our laurels. There's a lot of things that we can do that give us the same level of comfort, but use less water. So in terms of our wastewater treatment plants, we had 41,000 dry tons of biosolids. Zero of that, 0 tons, went to the landfill. You can kind of see there, I won't go through all that, but you can kind of see where that where those biosolids went. And this is something that's really cool that most people don't know about. So this is the Great Columbus Experiment. So typhoid, Columbus, lives lost and lives saved. So the time is 1904. The Columbus Buggy Company is still a world leader in buggies. Columbus's population is about 125,000 people, but the water isn't that great to drink. In fact, there's a typhoid plague going around, or outbreak going around. It killed more than 200 in Columbus alone, and one of those was a prominent US senator named Mark Hanna. With this embarrassment and threat to public health, Columbus took action. So consulting engineer John Gregory of New York hired 2 local folks, Charles and Clarence Hoover, which you might recognize the name Hoover because we have a reservoir named after them, to implement a system of filtering, purifying, and softening water from the Scioto River. So at the end of 1908, there was about 6 deaths from typhoid, and by 1919, only 1 death from typhoid. So this manner of treating water has actually been used worldwide and was started right here in Columbus. So something that we kind of take pride in. So with that, I do want to turn it over to Cary. And Cary, I'm going to mute myself and just let me know when you, actually, let me pull your slides up here because I think I have them right here. All right. Are they, let's see, let's go to full screen. Are you able to see them?
No, I'm still seeing your slides.
Okay, let me go like this. Stop sharing. And we will share again as we are sharing type out here in the Midwest. All right, how about now?
Yep, much better.
Okay,
thank you.
great.
So great to be here. Thanks, David. Thanks to the City of Columbus for having me today. As was mentioned, I have some Ohio roots. Went to college at the University of Dayton. I'm actually going to be on my way back to Ohio this afternoon. I was in my early years growing up in Northeast Ohio, so I'll be heading back there for the weekend to visit family. So after I get off this call, basically, I'll be heading your way from Chicago. So but glad to be with you today and glad to be talking about water saving opportunities, especially now in these hot summer months when water usage tends to peak. So we'll be talking about the WaterSense program that US EPA has and a number of different strategies in which folks can save water both inside the home, outside the home, and other applications for places of work, places of play, and other settings and properties around the city of Columbus. So you can go ahead and go on to the next slide there, David. And just to give some background as to why US EPA thinks a water efficiency program is something that we want to promote and provide some sponsorship for. Obviously, across the country, water shortages are starting to play out in real impactful ways, typically from drought conditions, as we're seeing out in the Southwest area, which can also occur, here and even in the more humid Midwest and other parts of the country. So water shortages are a reality that everyone might have to face from time to time or over a long period of time, like they are out west. But certainly today, we now have much better technology around ways to save water than we did 20, 30 years ago. We have a lot more potential to save resources for our community infrastructure by saving water. We know there are lots of opportunities to enhance the professional practices, the different trades and business organizations that work on water, like plumbers, like landscape designers and engineers, And ultimately, a lot of folks, in addition to wanting to save the resource, are also looking to save a few bucks. And so there's definitely ways to save some money by saving on typically rising utility bills across the country, and I'm sure they're in the city of Columbus. And next slide there, David. And so EPA, felt it was important to put together a water efficiency program. Now, I will freely admit that our water efficiency efforts are very much in parallel with our energy efficiency efforts, and so much of what you're going to hear today is similar to what you might hear on the energy efficiency side. And so you can think about the Energy Star program when it comes to ways in which you can learn about and ensure you can save energy in your home and business. And the important thing to note here on this slide is that there's a really tight linkage and connection between water and energy. And often when you save water, you're also saving energy, and then vice versa, because there's a lot of water involved in the production of energy. If you're saving energy, you're also saving water. And that can be at the sort of facility scale, the community scale, in how we pump and treat our water that consumes a lot of energy, but also inside the home. Often your second or third highest energy using area in the home is your hot water heater. And so if you can reduce the amount of water being used, hot water being used inside the home, you're also going to be saving energy. And so I'm assuming that on the GreenSpot series, there's been lots of discussion on energy saving mechanisms. It's just important to note that saving water also saves energy and vice versa. Next slide. And so, the vision behind having an efficiency program called WaterSense for us was really just a matter of making sure that we offer an opportunity for people to have simple, obvious, and obtainable ways to use less water. We want to make sure that all folks across the country understand the importance of water efficiency and can readily and freely take actions in their homes, in their places of businesses, inside and outside, so that water can be used efficiently and saved over the long term. And we'll achieve that by doing a few things. We're aiming to transform the marketplace so that we ensure that the highest efficient products and services are readily available to consumers, but also, through mechanisms like today, just providing more of an understanding and awareness around the important ethic of saving water, so conserving our resources sustainably now for future generations to use, and reducing the impacts of the costs to maintain that infrastructure going forward into the future. Next slide. And so for us, the WaterSense program really revolves around three areas that I'll be touching on today. We make sure that everyone is aware of and can take advantage of the different sort of behaviors and practices in which they can save water both inside and outside of properties. Making sure that efficient products are available on shelves when you're looking to retrofit your bathroom or design a new home, that water saving opportunities are readily available for purchasing purposes. And then we have a great deal of partnership opportunities. We're in a sense a voluntary program. There's nothing regulatory about what we are bringing to bear with the WaterSense program. And so we freely engage with a variety of partners across the country, much like we partner with the city of Columbus. And we have a number of other municipal and other types of partners across the country working with us to help spread the message of water efficiency. Next slide. And so one of the first things that you can do in order to try and save water, both inside and outside the home, is take advantage of some of these efficient products that are available. So again, much like the Energy Star program, we have a product labeling program for water saving fixtures that can be employed in homes and businesses, and both inside and outside of those properties. So we have a long product line of options, whether it be in bathrooms or in other residential settings. There are a variety of options that can be freely selected off of shelves today, or purchased through your own online plumbing retailers, so that water efficient products and fixtures can be in use in homes as easy as possible. So much like with Energy Star, when you're seeking an energy efficiency appliance, you want to look for the WaterSense label when it comes to identifying the most efficient water using fixture out there. A couple of the items I'll note here on this slide, we do have a home labeling program. This is for newly built single-family homes and multifamily homes. So we don't have a labeling program just yet for existing properties, but for any new developments that are happening, any new homes that are being constructed, we do have a product labeling program for those. So we work with home builders across the country to make sure that at least the new stock of housing going forward is as water efficient as possible. And then the bottom two on the right there, we're going to spend some more time on, but I just want to note that we have some products for outdoor water usage when it comes to managing irrigation systems. So next slide. And so, beyond the products that can be, readily utilized inside of a house or inside of a property, one of the other kind of quick and easy ways to make sure that water isn't being used wastefully or inefficiently is to check for leaks. And so we have a really handy checklist that can be downloaded off of our website, and we'll be providing all kinds of links and references here towards the end. But these are just simple things you can do to walk around your house and check all your fixtures for potential leaks. A lot of times leaks aren't noticeable because the water is just simply going down the drain in maybe a slow fashion. So it's not always a leak that causes a noticeable puddle of water or even something that might damage your property. Well, that is obviously certainly possible and a leak you want to try and address. Oftentimes a lot of leaks, whether they be coming out of toilets or faucets, are just going to be leaks that are just simply going down the drain, and you're not always necessarily even going to notice them. And so just paying a little bit more attention to potential leaks inside and outside your home is certainly one of the first things you want to start checking to make sure your property isn't wasting water and using water efficiently. So take a look at our checklist for identifying water leaks in your home. Next slide. And we also have some videos which are freely available on our YouTube channel. These are simple, 1-minute videos in which, if you do go out and purchase one of the WaterSense products, like a new shower head, like a faucet aerator, these are really simple things that anybody, can install themselves. And so we have some YouTube videos to kind of guide you through that process if you've never done that before. You can always hire a plumber, but often these are very obtainable, activities that a general homeowner can do with just the right materials and the right instruction. The bottom right video there is looking at changes to an inside component of a toilet called a flapper. It's typically a rubber product that wears out over time, and so can cause leaks after usage after a number of years. But again, these usually typically a very slow, almost imperceptible kind of leak, and so you want to check for leaks in your toilet, and if need be, maybe change the flapper, which literally costs like $5 at your local hardware store. So we have a lot of videos on our YouTube channel. You can really go on YouTube and probably find very similar videos from a lot of other sources, but we have a lot of videos that can help provide some instruction to do some quick home remedies if you do want to change out fixtures or fix some leaks. Next slide. And so in addition to some of the ideas that you can employ inside your house, and in addition to the fixtures and identifying leaks, there's obviously behavioral kinds of strategies like taking shorter showers and making sure you don't leave the water running when not needed. I mean, those are less guaranteeable ways of saving water, because it's really incumbent upon the user to remember to take that shorter shower or turn off that faucet while they're brushing their teeth. But when you employ a fixture change or you employ a leak remedy, then you're guaranteed to sort of maintain those savings over time. That's why we put our label and stock behind a lot of those kinds of practices, because they're looking at savings going for the long term and not relying on individual behavior changes, which may or may not happen 100% of the time. But so in addition to inside the home ways of saving water, because it's July, hot summertime, I do want to focus some time here today talking about outdoor water usage and outdoor water efficiency, because, and for most properties, upwards of 20 or 30% of water usage is going to be used outside the home, and that's going to increase dramatically in these sort of summer water using and irrigation months. This is often when the municipalities will start seeing their peak usage from irrigation, from swimming pool usage, from fountains, from other outdoor water usage. And so we'll want to spend some time today talking about ways that we can also save water outside of properties. And there are a number of reasons why water may not be used efficiently or may be just simply wasted. And so we'll want to walk through some strategies here to kind of make sure that water outside the property is also being used wisely. Next slide. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is landscaping. And so the main kind of takeaway here is that when it comes to any outdoor landscape area that is being irrigated, being supplemented with extra water beyond what's provided by the rain, we'll want to make sure that we have a well-designed and a water-efficient landscape that includes things like healthy soils, appropriate grading to minimize runoff, mulching on landscape beds to keep soils moist, keep that moisture in the soil and not evaporating, making sure we have the right plant selection for your particular climate region, and minimizing grass and turf where not necessary, because those are pretty water intensive plants. And then looking to group our landscape planting options into hydro zones so that we can make sure we're able to water most efficiently based on the types of plants that need the similar types of water. Next slide. And so there's a number of things that certainly can be done by yourself in a DIY fashion, but if you already have a landscape irrigation contractor that you're using, or you're thinking about using a professional to help you with landscaping, you want to make sure that they're trained and certified in water efficient and climate appropriate landscaping. And then they'll help you really design and maintain a good, healthy landscape. As I mentioned earlier, the soil is really going to be the sort of foundation of a healthy landscape, making sure you have deep root systems that can allow water to really infiltrate as it's coming in contact with the soil, maintaining a good topsoil over time, which can wear away, so that you're really capturing the rain and then slowly releasing that moisture to the plants over time. Because if you have poor or even fast draining soils, water can not move appropriately to those plants. And so you might need soil amendments and other ways of sort of holding water in a very capable fashion for the plants that you have in place. And as I mentioned, making sure that landscaped areas are mulched so that we can minimize the evaporation and the loss of that moisture into the air. And if you have compacted soils, and whether you're in an urban environment or just in an area where there's a lot of foot traffic, just make sure you're aerating that area so you can make sure you improve the infiltration of water over time. Next slide. So in addition to the foundation of a proper and efficient landscape, we're looking at making sure that the plant selection is appropriate for the Columbus area. We want to make sure that drought tolerant and climate appropriate plantings and materials are in place, so we don't have to provide extra and supplemental irrigation more than really necessary. We want to make sure the turf area is sort of appropriate for the property. Obviously, if we have a play area, for kids, we want to have grass that kids can run around on. But if it's just simply an area that's not being utilized, you can certainly convert turf grass to other types of plantings. Shade trees provide an excellent way of sort of reducing the water requirements of certain covered plants. And then make sure you're paying attention to not only your soil type that you have already in place, but also any exposure to sunlight, to wind. And so there are different things that are going to survive better depending on the existing conditions. And I mentioned earlier about zoning. I mean, there's definitely ways in which you can group plants according to their water needs so that you can provide the right kind of irrigation if necessary to those zones, but not overwatering certain plants that really just don't need them. Next slide. When it comes to plant selection, this can be tricky if you've never really looked deeply at this before, and it's because native species are plants that thrive in the region that haven't been introduced by humans from elsewhere. These are plants that have been in their own climate and topography and geographic area for a long time, and they're appropriate towards particular regions. So native plants are accustomed and very adapted to the local conditions and weather patterns And so, plants obviously that are thriving in the Western states, aren't going to probably do very well in other parts of the country because they've already gotten used to limited water, and vice versa. Plants that are more accustomed to the eastern part of the U.S. with cooler temperatures and higher rainfall aren't going to survive very well out west. And so that's why we see oftentimes out west, grass is something that takes a lot of water to maintain out west. And there's a lot of communities even out there that are trying to incentivize the removal of grass because they are really not native to the arid Southwest. Next slide. So when it comes to selecting plant species, if you need a resource, we do have an area on our website where you can identify sort of climate appropriate plants for your region. And so you can take a look at that when you get a chance. You can search for different external resources that we've compiled that could be a good place to start in terms of trying to select the right kind of plants for your climate region. Next slide. And if you need just some, pictorial sort of visual inspiration, we also have a lot of great photos that we've collected over the years from partners of ours. So if you're looking for ways to redesign a property, there's a lot of images that we have in place that might help you down the road towards selecting some certain plants and other landscapes for your area that are water efficient and sustainable going forward. Next slide. So in addition to the plant selection and the soil, there's also the notion of any water that's used, through irrigation and maintaining those irrigation systems and minimizing waste. And so throughout the irrigation system, if you have irrigation season, if you have an irrigation system, you'll definitely want to make sure you're kind of paying attention to potential water that's spraying on hardscapes like sidewalks and driveways, any leaks that might be occurring, and fixing any broken sprinkler heads that may have occurred over time. If you see any pooling or puddling on your landscape, you want to make sure you check for leaks inside those irrigation systems. And ideally, if you have meters, you can really identify water usage and any irregularities through just kind of paying attention to any separate irrigation meters if those are in place. And you definitely want to make sure that your irrigation system is maintained well and even audited over time by professionals. And we've got lists of irrigation professionals that you can use as a resource as well. Next slide. So when it comes to your irrigation system, if you have one, then you want to make sure it's being used properly. And ideally, we're kind of trying to get away from the sort of manual or timer-based irrigation system, which doesn't always have like the best intentions in mind. If it's got a timer on it and it's 2 o'clock on a Wednesday and it's raining and it turns on, that's not what we really want here. We want to make sure these irrigation systems are watering when the plants actually need to be watered. And so we've got a number of products in our labeling line that you'll want to take a look at if you want to upgrade the sort of maintenance, the oversight of those irrigation systems. And so we have weather-based irrigation controllers, which sort of can adjust the schedule of irrigation based on actual real-time local weather factors. We've also got more recently soil moisture-based controllers that can also bypass the irrigation cycle if the soil moisture content is already sufficient. There are other kinds of sensors out there, rain sensors, that can help guide an irrigation system when to turn on and turn off. And there's even wind and freeze sensors which can override certain schedulings. If it's a really windy day, you also don't want your irrigation system turning on because that's going to start spraying water all over the place, probably away from the actual intended landscape area. So getting some smart sensors added on to an existing irrigation system is a great way to upgrade your irrigation efficiency. Next slide. And I mentioned that our most recent labeled product are these soil moisture controllers. This is something that just really got finalized a few months ago, and so products are just now starting to appear on shelves. But these are controllers that can really detect the real-time measurement of soil moisture content and help guide when the irrigation system needs to be turned on or not. So if there's no water in the soil, then the sensor will allow the next irrigation cycle to turn on. And often these days are becoming really intelligent and can connect to your home internet, Wi-Fi capabilities and other mobile devices that you can also so control these systems remotely if need be. Next slide. And the capabilities of these controllers is quite vast, and so this is where we really encourage looking at ways to sort of enhance the control of the irrigation systems beyond sort of a manual operation or a timer-based operation, if that's how they're currently being used. You want to make sure you're always kind of paying attention to your schedule. These are schedules that really should be looked at, if not seasonally, maybe even monthly, to make sure that the scheduling is appropriate for the time of year and the rainfall that typically occurs. I talked a little bit earlier about zones. I think we definitely want to make sure that the zones of irrigation are a good fit with the zones of the planting, because they certainly can be different depending on how you've set up your landscape. And as I said earlier, always check for leaks in your irrigation systems. Keep an eye out for pooling or puddling on the landscape. And for all these kinds of tips that we're laying out today, we have a variety of materials on our website. This document here shown on the slide is that about whether your watering is under control is a brochure we have on our website that has some more detail behind these different tips if you want to have some more resource to move forward with. Next slide. Another aspect of irrigation systems are the sprinkler bodies themselves, and this is not the sprayer. Technically, it's actually the housing sort of around the sprinkler nozzle that helps really maintain pressure, and because pressure can be a big deal when it comes to water efficiency. Too much pressure, too little pressure can really impact the sort of efficacy of those sprayers. And so we label these sprinkler bodies so that the internal pressure regulation keeps the sprinkler outlet pressure consistent, depending on how the incoming pressure from the water utility is coming. So it maintains a more consistent flow rate and tries to minimize any misting or overspray out of those sprinkler nozzles. So if you have, again, an existing irrigation system in place, you might want to look at sort of upgrading the sprinkler bodies on the irrigation system to have some of these pressure management solutions in place. Next slide. And I mentioned earlier, there are professionals trained in water efficiency that can help with existing irrigation systems or the design of a new irrigation system. And so I certainly encourage you to take a look at professionals that are certified through one of our irrigation programs. These professionals can help design new systems or audit or maintain existing systems. And so we have some references on our website in which you can find local professionals in Ohio to help keep these irrigation systems running efficiently. Next slide. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of guidance and material on our website that you can get some further information and insight into. We have some documents that have a lot of the images and design aspects that we were referring to earlier. We have guidance documents for the irrigation systems themselves, and even delves into the sort of micro irrigation area where we're talking about more drip irrigation type or other sort of very pinpoint irrigation systems that aren't irrigating an entire area, but very precisely providing water to the root zone of plants. So we have some more guidance documents on that, as well as that a similar sort of water audit checklist that I showed earlier for inside the home. We also have a landscape checklist that you can use to kind of walk around your property outside, looking at your landscape and looking at your irrigation system to check for leaks. Next slide. So just to quickly summarize some things you can do, by yourself often, and right now, one thing you definitely want to make sure you are taking a look at are your bills. And I'm not sure if Columbus bills monthly or something maybe less frequently, but you want to make sure you're watching your bills, especially over these summer months, to pay attention to the usage as it changes throughout the seasons. It can also help you identify leaks. If you go away on vacation for a week or two and notice that monthly bill is still kind of high, that might mean you have a leak somewhere inside the house or outside the house. So paying attention to your water usage, either through access to your meter, if you do have access to it, or through your billing system, is a great way to kind of pay attention to water usage. And it's constantly walk around your property, both inside and outside the home, to make sure there aren't any leaks occurring. Some again are real obvious because they start providing, noticeable puddles or even property damage, but some of them aren't. Some of them are really subtle and simply just drain into the fixture if it's inside the house, or into the ground if it's outside the house. So things to kind of pay attention to on the leak detection front. As I mentioned, definitely pay attention to the kind of planting that you have, and think about drought tolerant and water efficient plant species if you're looking to make some changes in your landscape. And if you do have turf grass, and you want to keep the turf grass in place, just think about ways that you can sort of make sure that turf grass is healthy. And one way is to let it grow a little longer. That'll allow the root system of the turf grass to get a little deeper, and it can go a little bit longer without any supplemental watering. So next slide. So as we're wrapping up here, just want to provide some summary statistics about the program that we've now had for going on 15 years. We provide an annual report that we just released, our 2020 report last month. Every year that sort of tries to estimate the amount of savings that's been gained through our program, typically through plumbing fixtures that have been installed, which then all sort of accumulate over time. After those fixtures are put in place, that savings is realized over and over again, obviously. And so we've been able to really recognize through the efforts of our partners and consumers that have been purchasing water saving products through WaterSense, millions and trillions of gallons of water saved now since the start of our program back in the mid 2000s. But also importantly, through these efforts, saving consumers and stakeholders like you a lot of money, and both on your water bill from your water department, but also likely on your energy bills too. So again, we're going back to that water energy connection, in which you can both save water and energy, often through strategies together. So next slide. I think there's got some references here for some follow-up information if you're curious. Our website is got a ton of information, as I kind of laid out earlier, videos, guidance, materials, images, all kinds of great stuff. We have a pretty active social media presence as well, so make sure you want to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, because we're always pumping out tips and other ideas for folks throughout the year. This July is actually Smart Irrigation Month, so we're providing lots of information about ways to save water outside, but other times of the year we're talking about other parts of the property when it comes to saving water. We have a toll-free hotline if you have any questions for the WaterSense program, and then I'm available out of our US EPA Chicago office for any questions as well. And so happy to entertain any questions. That's my last slide, and really thanks again for the opportunity to chat with you all today, and look forward to saving water together moving forward. And you're on mute, David.
It keeps jumping around when I try to unmute myself. I don't know. Maybe that's about me. Technology is trying to tell me something. Well, Cary, thank you so much for this. There's a lot of really good information here. I feel like I'm on the WaterSense website once a week because there is just so much really cool information. We do try to, as GreenSpot, we do try to like and share the things that you post, which really are, water saving tactics, techniques that you can do, products that you can get. And again, it's not giving up comfort. It's the same amount of comfort, but less resources, less water. So you're saving money. I actually got, when we go out and table at events, we have like aerators and things like that. And I don't know if you can see, but there is the WaterSense logo that you should always look for with that. A couple other things. You go ahead and type your questions. If you have questions, type them in the chat feature, or if you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead and comment and we will get to those. I did want to share real quick a couple other things that you can do to kind of save water here. And I know it's showing, let's see here. Yeah, I got a new laptop, and so I'm still figuring out all of the different aspects of it. All right, so one thing I wanted to mention is for checking for a leaky toilet, one way to do that is using cola, or as I like to say, pop, because I'm here in the Midwest. So, a dark pop that you could put in the tank of the toilet, which is in the back, right? It's not in the bowl, it's in the back. And then you wait 10, 15 minutes. If you see any of that cola in the bowl, then that flapper that Cary was talking about earlier needs to be replaced. And if you don't see any cola, just go ahead and do one flush to flush out the cola there. But that's an easy way to check for a leaky toilet. For a faucet, just put a mug under there, leave it there for an hour or two. You see any water in that mug when you come back, you know that your aerator or your sink is leaking some water. And then here are just a few other things, like for conserving water in the toilet. You've probably heard you could put a brick in the back of the toilet in the tank. We don't recommend that just because that brick is going to deteriorate over time and it could actually damage your toilet. You could always take a bottle, put rocks in it, and fill it up with water and stick it in the back of the toilet. That's what we do. Ours has lasted over 10 years, believe it or not. So tried and proven. Plant native trees on your property. Use a reusable water bottle. Turn off the water when you brush your teeth. I think, and Cary, you're like the expert on this, but you could save like anywhere from 2 to 5 gallons of water a day just by doing that, because you don't have that water going full blast when you're just sitting there brushing your teeth. You might see this is more the protecting water, but picking up litter. We have a lot of sewers here in Columbus, and a lot of them go directly out to the river. So when trash goes down that sewer, it just goes out to the river and pollutes the river, and then we have to clean it up. If you do rent, that's not a problem. You can still check for leaks and let your landlord know right away if you have any leaks. Cary talked about native plants. So through our GreenSpot Community Backyards program, we offer a $50 rebate on a native tree or a rain barrel. And I think there's a little bit less than $50, but for native plants as well. So take advantage of that program. We're probably going to run out of rebates this year, even though we upped the number of rebates that people can get. And our friends over at Franklin Soil and Water Conservation District are implementing that side of GreenSpot for us. And you can kind of see right here, avoid watering the sidewalk. You don't need to grow the sidewalk. I don't know how many times that I've seen the old style sprinklers that go back and forth, which are great for kids to play in, but they always hit the sidewalk and you don't need to water it. And then look at watering in the evening or in the early morning. If you water during the hottest part of the day, a lot of that water might evaporate. But it can also damage your plants because that water heats up. And so it could actually scorch some of your plants. But yeah, so those are just a few things that you can do to kind of piggyback on what Cary was saying with WaterSense. And yeah, so if there are any questions, I don't see any right now. So Cary, we just have a few minutes left. I don't know if you want to share any parting words of wisdom with us.
Well, just that, our program is still growing. We've been around for about 15 years. The Energy Star program has been around a lot longer than us and has a lot more product options and resources. So, stay tuned. There will be more products coming. Things we're looking at right now on the sort of research and development side of things are, the bathroom, tub, shower, diverter, spout issues. Sometimes you have a little water coming out of your shower and tub spout when your shower is on. So there are some other things that we're looking at. We've looked at hot water heaters. We've looked at water softeners. There's a number of other products that we have in the queue. So if the product line that we have available right now is something that you've already got in place, there's probably more options coming. So just stay tuned to the WaterSense program. As we grow, we'll have more product line opportunities for ways to save water inside and outside the home.
Great. Thank you so much, Cary. And so I thought I had one more slide, but I don't. Oh, there it is. So if you've been following us, folks, with our GreenSpot Conversations, we have our next conversation here in a couple of days, Friday the 16th at 10 a.m. And to continue on with the water theme is the health of the Olentangy River. And yes, that blue heron was taken in the Olentangy River. So check us out then. You can check us out on Facebook. And yeah, I want to appreciate everybody's time. And I want to thank Cary again. And everybody have a good afternoon.
Thank you.